You know, I'm sitting at the table there and I'm watching Ian speak, and I'm reminded of my own father and how much this affects all the family members that are watching somebody go through this. And I have to say that this is not for nothing. I know you're going to see your kids again. And the nobility and the character and what you all stand for and the power behind your intentions of this society, they count. They really count for something. And they'll count to your kids, because they will. They will see you again, and they'll see how you handled yourself, and it counts for something. I promise you that. Anyway, I grew up in Saskatoon and attended Bishop Mahoney High School. Oh, sorry, maybe we should start. Yeah. Sorry. I grew up in Saskatoon, and I attended Bishop Mahoney High School, where I graduated valedictorian of my grade 12 class. I played basketball, fastball, and competed in track and field. I continued on to university and spent a number of years abroad traveling. I learned how to fly helicopters and hang gliders, and I tour guided for a snowboarding company in Australia. It seemed as though I was living my every dream. I fell in love when I was in Australia, and shortly afterwards got married. Never in a million years did I think that I would ever find myself looking at a missing poster of my own 2 children. I always associated kidnappings with strangers, but the majority of cases, the abductors are the relatives. Over 250 children were abducted by one of their parents last year. March 1996, Camille Ricketts, at just 22 months of age, was abducted from Victoria, BC by her mother. It took 8 years to locate her and to reunite her with her father. July 1998, Angelina Brian Horscher, at 6 years old, was abducted by her father. It took 5 years to locate her and reunite her with her mother. July 2006, my daughters, Hannah and Cedar, boarded a plane for a 3-week holiday with their father, Joseph, in Sydney, Australia. They were abducted into Lebanon during the height of the summer war, and they were gone from my life a total of 179 excruciating days. I am here to share with you our story. Firstly, I say our because it is my daughter's story too. It is for this reason that I try to tell the story with as much respect for the people that are meaningful in their lives as well. To tell the totality of the story would take me days to do, so I've done my best to portray it so that it would hopefully give you all a better insight into what went on behind the headlines. This is our story. Joseph and myself had been separated for approximately 10 months after 6 years of a somewhat tumultuous and shaky marriage. We had mutually decided on shared custody of our children. He had been adamant about taking the girls to see his family in Australia, and despite my anxiety about being separated from the girls for such an extended period of time, I conceded. I had a very good relationship with my in-laws, and I felt that it was important that the girls continue to have quality time with them as well. I had many concerns about being separated from the children. I spoke to a therapist. She recommended video cam. I sent letters ahead of time before they left so that they would have mail to open from me when they were there. On July 17th, communication ceased, and on the evening of July 19th, my nightmare began. I received a call from my brother-in-law in Sydney that my children were in the Middle East and they would not be returning. It was excruciating news to hear, particularly in light of the war that had only days ago transpired between Israel and Lebanon. I ran outside, and I was physically ill in the backyard. I was wailing and screaming. It's a very intense pain to not be able to put your arms around your child. Anyone who's even lost their child for a second in a shopping mall would know that pain. For the coming weeks, I became hypervigilant. I thought I was being followed. I had my house, my van scanned for bugs. I couldn't sit still. The amount of guilt I felt, I kept replaying things over and over in my head. How stupid I was. How could I possibly have been tricked so badly, and at what cost? After frantically running around Calgary in the early hours of the morning, we determined that Joseph had taken the girls on a permanent move. It was clear that he was gone. We went back to my house, rang the police, a lawyer, and Foreign Affairs. Reality had sunk in, and it was evident that this was going to be a very long and painful journey. Based on all of the information from the Calgary Police Service, the Court of Queen's Bench granted me sole custodian of Hannah and Cedar on July 21st, 2006. On July 25th, I enlisted the assistance of Missing Children Society of Canada. The involvement of the Missing Children Society of Canada was a vital point for my case and for myself personally. It's something that I really need to highlight because although I speak in the first person throughout my story, they were there every step of the way. What separates them is that they are the only investigative child search agency in Canada, and they are nonprofit. The investigator that was assigned to my case became my lifeline and voice of reason, on top of the fact that he was a skilled investigator. He always knew when I was having a bad day, or even when my father was having a bad day, when we just needed that extra word of encouragement or support. They put me in touch with other parents who had gone through this, and they gave me their words of recommendation and support. And they made it very clear that they were never going to stop and we were never going to give up hope. From that point forward until I reclaimed my children, days before Christmas, we all worked together with our legal team, the Calgary Police, government agencies, RCMP, and our own private investigator. For our situation, we were very lucky to have such passionate people on our side. More often than not, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. Our roundtable meetings were extremely expensive, but it got everyone from each agency talking and sharing information, which ultimately was a big key to our success. I did not realize at this time how rare it was to accomplish this. We made multiple calls to family members, attempting to negotiate their help and get their assistance. We recorded every conversation and transcribed them ourselves, and then had it done professionally. I traveled to Australia twice. The first time as a result of a text message demanding my presence there if I ever wanted to see my kids again. When we arrived there, I was met with the demands to sign over custody. I explored what this would mean, considering my children were in the middle of a war zone in Lebanon. I would have done anything to get them out. After speaking with the Attorney General's office there, they had determined that even signing this document would take the Hague Convention off the table. I would have to prove that I was under duress signing the document, and even then, we couldn't be sure that he was going to bring them back to Australia. My lawyer recommended against it, said it was like making a deal with the devil. Every turn, everything I'd agreed to do, I was met with a roadblock. After meetings with the family, it was clear what their demands were. Sign over custody of the girls to Joseph, sell my house and prepare a move to Australia, stop with my pressuring and plans to get the girls back, or Joseph was going to take the girls and flee deeper into the Middle East and hide in Syria. They also wanted me to speak to the Crown Prosecutor in Canada and have the abduction charges dropped against him before he even left the Middle East. I realized then that I was being seriously bullied. No one else was going to set an example for the girls, and I was their mother. I needed to teach them, even in their absence, that it was not acceptable to be bullied by the people in their lives, and it was up to me to stand up to it. The second time we went to Australia was to be present in the court as we subpoenaed key family members to answer questions. This court action was just another testament to Missing Children Society, as their founder, Rhonda Morgan, had researched and found that it was a viable opportunity. Viable but expensive. We'd found a loophole in the system there, which I was basically suing Joseph and his mother for post-traumatic stress disorder. In suing them, we were allowed to subpoena key family members to find out their whereabouts so that we could serve them the papers. So a lot of people thought that we dragged relatives into court to ask them where Hannah and Cedar were, but we weren't allowed to ask those questions. We were very specifically set that we had to find the whereabouts of Joseph and Gladys, and we knew that where their whereabouts were, ultimately the children obviously would be, but we had to be very careful. The judge granted us a lot of leniency. It cost nearly 55,000 Australian dollars, so it was a very expensive procedure. But it was something else in the added positive pressure to get somebody to do the right thing. Two of their family members are lawyers in Sydney, and even that didn't get them to speak the truth in the court.